Hi, and welcome to the Women's Business Society podcast, where you can listen to the experts while I pick their brains for hot tips and tricks to help grow your business. Thank you to our major sponsor, Book It Bookkeeping, and a shout out to all our members, with a special mention to So Beautiful, who provides all the gifts at our WBS networking events. Hello everybody, so welcome to the WBS podcast. Today we are talking to Dr. Vesna from Qt about why you should never fake it till you make it, and I love this topic. So welcome, Dr. Vesna.
Thank you, Cassandra, and everybody else. Great to be here.
So before we dive into this fantastic topic, I would love for you to introduce yourself, because I know all our listeners would love to know more about you. So what is your business? When did you start? Give us all the juicy bits about yourself.
The juicy bits and the checkered past, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Happy to. So my business is Qt, as you mentioned. It actually stands for Quantum Transformations. And what we do is we offer highly personalized NLP, hypnotherapy, and Qt Respect consultations and certification trainings. So over the last 18 years, I've run certification trainings to empower hundreds of graduates to grow successful businesses so they can help other people, and also empowered thousands of clients one-on-one to help them permanently transform their confidence, personal and professional business success.
Wonderful.
I started the business in 2000, so about 18 years ago exactly, and it was with a vision of creating an empowered society, and really wanted to make a difference and help people to really empower themselves in all areas of life. My background is corporate banking. I spent 13 years in corporate banking, in banking and finance, working with numbers actually. And after about 9 years, I realized I felt like a fish out of water doing that. So I decided to go on a self-discovery journey to find out, well, what do I really want to do when I grow up? And I realized it was working with people. People were my passion. So I made the transition from working with numbers to working with people. And here I am, 18 years later.
Well, I'm glad you made that choice. Otherwise, I wouldn't be speaking to you today, and listeners would be listening. So thank you for making that choice. That's fantastic. And it's such an empowering moment, isn't it? When you go, actually, I think I might change my path and do something different. And that's a really brave step that you made, because it's not easy, because there's a lot of things. It's not just as easy as going, oh, I'm just going to change what I want to do. I mean, there's a lot in between that. So well done being brave enough to make that choice.
I think we all have it in us. We just need to make a choice. And what a lot of people don't realize is not making a choice is a choice in itself.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Right. So today I'd love for you to introduce the topic. And I know there's 4 bits that we're going through, 4 steps. So I want to give you this platform to share with us all of your knowledge. I know there's lots in there to share. So introduce what you're going to be talking about today and take it away.
Thanks, Cassandra. So faking it till you make it. It's a little bit of advice that people tend to give quite freely in business and in careers, actually. They'll say, if you're not confident, if you're not successful, don't worry about it. Just fake it until you do get there. And my view is that why fake something when you can actually have it? And there's actually 4 reasons I'm going to go through, the 4 points, why faking it is actually the worst advice you could possibly give someone. So I can get into the 4 points. If you like, I can start off with the first.
Absolutely. I know they're all sitting and going, okay, everyone tells us. I mean, I've heard that so many times over so many years, not people saying it to me, but just within conversations, don't worry, just fake it till you make it. And on Facebook, and fake it till you make it. It's like, what does that mean? And what is that achieving? So I think everyone wants to dive into this, because unless you're given an alternative, you take the advice you're given. So if everyone keeps giving everyone that advice, we need a different dialogue, don't we? So it's not fake it till you make it. So yes, let's dive into those 4 points.
Yes. For me, fake it means pretend to do
yes.
or be something you're not really. So the first point for me is, or the first question rather for the listeners is, do you believe it? Because you need to understand that faking it with positive self-talk, for example, talking yourself into something you don't believe is the same as telling yourself affirmations you don't believe. So it's one thing to say, I'm confident, I'm successful, I can do anything. But if you don't truly believe it, and on an unconscious level, if you have beliefs which are in conflict with what you affirm or tell yourself, the unconscious beliefs always, always, always win out. So somebody could tell themselves the most wonderful things, but if they don't believe it, it's going to make no difference at all. And I've been guilty of this myself. I remember when I was still in the corporate world, driving to the train station, it took me about 20 minutes in the car each way. And I'd be talking myself into believing things with affirmations for the whole 20 minutes in the car. And I didn't believe a single thing that I was saying to myself. And so, of course, nothing changed because I didn't believe it. And so often people who do have these subconscious beliefs that hold them back, things like not good enough, not worthy, can't make enough money, I can't be successful, fear of failure, fear of rejection, and the list goes on and on. Often people that do use affirmations do them because they compensate for the lack of self-belief.
Yeah.
So when you do have that solid and congruent self-belief, you don't need the affirmations because the belief's there and you don't need to talk yourself into anything. You just act upon the belief automatically. So when you truly believe something, affirmations are obsolete and faking it is irrelevant.
Yeah, and it's quite a tricky one because I've seen women, they go into business and there is, and it's not, I'm not speaking for everybody, just people who go into business feeling this way. It's new territory, it's scary. There's all these fears that come up and, they're not feeling like they are worthy of being a business owner, like they know enough. So, imposter syndrome, all these things sort of start creeping up on them, and then they find a way to cope. And so then they hear this fake it till you make it. But it's quite, what do you think are the dangers of, I know this is sort of going off topic, but the dangers of thinking that when you're in that vulnerable state? I guess you've just sort of gone through that with belief, is that you can do all those things, but if you're not believing it yourself. So do we take a step backwards?
We do, definitely. People who do have those beliefs tend to sabotage themselves.
Yeah.
The beliefs become self-fulfilling, essentially. So whatever we're believing, it affects our behaviour. So, people with a fear of rejection, for example, will do and say things that will actually cause them to be rejected. So whether it be on a date, whether it be asking a customer for their business or going for an interview, the fear of rejection will kick in and they will undo the good work that they've put in.
Yeah. I think that's where this comment, fake it till you make it, it's almost like a coping strategy. And I want to change that fake it till you make it dialogue. Like, what is something else a woman could say in that moment? It's almost like putting on a mask. That fake it till you make it is like a mask that people sort of putting on. But, what's a different way of maybe saying that and putting on that brave, I am brave, or maybe if they don't believe it, actually, then that's not going to make a difference, which I guess is what you were just saying. But it's changing that dialogue that we're feeding ourselves during the time that we don't feel like we belong. I mean, that is a sign we need to work on things. But, people need coping strategies, don't they? Till they do reach that confidence point that makes it a little bit easier for them to be in business.
The other thing that is a challenge that I find challenging with this fake it till you make it is also, what does make it mean? It's almost like there's this magic destination. It's like this perfect utopia. Like business is an ongoing journey. Life is an ongoing journey. So wherever you are right now, you've made it. I mean, you've made it because it's degrees, it's levels, and it's what success is to you, not somebody else. So I think part of it is stopping the comparisons with other people. I think the only valid...
Sorry to interrupt you, but that is exactly where I think the make it. that bit there is that people are looking at others on Instagram. I'm not talking about images, beautiful bodies, but more the success of a business. And, to them in their mind, it becomes that is the maker. If I just keep sort of going along and pretending I belong there, eventually I will belong there. And it's like, well, that's not the right ingredients or the recipe, is it? To create success is filling it with even the words fake it, and saying that, because, I think we all, like previously was saying, everyone has inside of them. We don't need to fake anything. It's bringing it out. And those are things we need to work on.
Exactly. So I think the questions we ask ourselves can either limit us or empower us. And if we ask ourselves questions which are negative, of course, that keeps us stuck. So I think maybe a good question to ask ourselves is, how can I make it to the level of success I want to be at? Yeah.
Yes.
So it's the next level for me. So if I'm at level A, how do I get to level B? So those questions are better questions to ask, rather than focusing on what we don't have, what we wish we had, and what other people have that we don't have.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, because you definitely don't want to get into that comparison and jealousy stage, because that is immobilizing for many people, because they feel like they'll never get to that stage. So that's it's like sabotaging yourself again, isn't it? It's like the goal becomes too big. Oh, it doesn't matter. I can't do this anymore. It's getting too difficult, because you're working on the wrong things.
Exactly. So I always say that the only valid comparison is your prior performance with your current performance, and your current performance with your goal, where you want to be. That's the only valid comparison.
Yes. Love it. Love it. Believe in yourself, not other people's goals.
Exactly. And also be careful who you share your goals with. You want to share your goals with other believers rather than non-believers.
Yes, absolutely. And it's funny because I was reminded of this in recent weeks. Actually, I've been quite fortunate myself to be around like-minded women for many years, obviously with WBS, and it's been such a beautiful, comfortable space. When you take yourself and put yourself in a different space with people who do not understand, and I have been exposed for that for a few years, who don't sort of get what you're doing, and say certain things that is like a knife to your heart, and then you have to go back to the principles that you learned a long time ago, to not let those things get to you, and not everyone's going to understand. And being around like-minded people is such a beautiful space, but you have to learn to cope in a space where people might not understand or support your goals, and that always comes from a place of jealousy, I've noticed. But just to keep going, there's so many times where you can let those things get to you and start doubting yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that about WBS, because it's a whole bunch of women supporting and empowering each other, cheering each other on, which is awesome.
Yeah, and I forgot how important that was until I was exposed to something in recent weeks. I'm like, oh, I need my people back. These people because I'm a goal setter and I'm a big achiever and I have big goals, and that's a good thing. But then when someone who's not like that makes you feel like that's a bad thing, you go, oh, hold on a minute, I don't know. Wait a minute, why are you making me feel uncomfortable because I'm the way that I am? So you have to take a step back and sort of go, no, that's fine, I'm good. You just stay in that lane, I'll stay in my lane. You be happy, I'll be happy.
That's right. And it's, the other thing that we need to also realize is that when people want to put other people down, or make negative comments towards people that are successful, it has nothing to do with the successful person. It's got everything to do with the insecure person.
Absolutely. Amen.
Yes.
I've been going around, amen. And the thing is, even when you know this stuff, I know this, it's deep rooted inside my soul. It's still, words hurt. That's just the way that it is. No matter how strong you are, get told, oh, you don't need to be so strong. It doesn't matter how strong you are. Sometimes, especially when it's coming from other women, it can be quite a tricky thing. But you just keep going. And then that's when you learn. I've learned, these people are not people I'm going to share my book with, because that's just going to create more of a rift. There's just certain people, they don't need to know. As much as you want to tell people, oh, look, I'm achieving this because you're happy, not bragging, but you're happy that you're serving in some way. Not everyone sees it that way. So it's learning to share it with those who want to listen, who are on the same page.
That's right. And I think it's
Yeah.
okay to feel hurt by other people's comments. You know, we are
Yeah.
human.
Yes.
I think it's okay to be vulnerable. I think those emotions help us to realize who are the people that are there for us. Because if we didn't feel any emotion, we then maybe would not surround ourselves with the right people.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. Oh, I like you, Dr. Vesna.
like-minded, Cassandra.
Like mad, exactly. I'm feeling good already.
Fantastic.
All right. So we're on to number 2.
We are on to number 2.
All right.
This one I call more confusion, less confidence, because I speak to lots of people each week, as you can imagine, as you do.
Yeah.
And people are already confused enough about where they're going in life, what's going on with business, career, relationships, and faking it and pretending to be something that you're not just adds to the confusion and just sabotages their confidence and success even more, I believe. So I think rather than creating more confusion or adding to the confusion that's already there, I think we need to get more clarity. And this is where, of course, goal setting comes in and making sure we know where we're going with business and where we want to be in life as well. So the key thing here is the confusion bit. So I'll just explain how this happens. If somebody gets up one morning and one morning they're feeling good and they say to themselves, I'm really confident, I'm successful, and they're feeling really good. Then the next day they get up and they're feeling pretty awful and not that positive in their thinking. That's creating this internal conflict and confusion. And the whole time, and this is the critical bit, the whole time the subconscious mind is listening to this internal dialogue, positive, negative, indifferent. If it's not consistent, if it's good one day, bad another, the subconscious mind gets confused. And it listens to both the positive, the negative, and everything in between because its job is not to analyze. It cannot analyze. That's the job of the analytical conscious brain. So the subconscious mind takes on board everything, every thought we have, every emotion we feel, the good, the bad, and the indifferent, as I said. So when we develop consistency in our beliefs and the way we feel, the confusion disappears and we can have that consistent success and consistent confidence.
Love it. Oh, that's so much poetry.
Yeah, so it's important to address the beliefs, and it's also important to be consistent with our language towards ourselves.
I'm seeing an overall theme here that fake it till you make it is almost like feeding your brain a lie to mask fears. And then by doing that, you're not dealing with the underlying issues, which is the belief and the confusion, all those things that are happening. By just saying fake it till you make it, you're actually ignoring all the things that you might need to work on. I'm sort of seeing a common theme here.
Exactly.
Yes.
So it's like people saying, "Oh, I'll just deal with the symptom rather than the underlying cause."
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, which is fine, except that's only a short-term solution.
Yes, absolutely. And the thing is, in business, like, I've been in business for 15 years, you've been in business 18 years, it is a long journey and it's a beautiful journey. It's fantastic. I couldn't imagine doing anything else. But that you realize there's steps that you have to take and there's things that you need to work on. And if you ignore those things, it's going to smack you in the face with a big lesson. So you can't ignore things like a marriage. If you don't communicate, you're going to have problems. Like with children, you don't spend enough time, they're going to feel neglected. Everything in life requires you to take, to take notice, and to deal with things, because if you put it, under the pillow, it's just going to build up and you're not going to be able to sleep at night because you're going to have too much rubbish under your pillow. You have to deal with things. I think it's common sense, isn't it? If you think about it, I think business is like a marriage. You have to put in the right ingredients. You have to look after it. You have to nurture it. And when there's fears that come up, when there's things that come up, you cannot ignore them because they just get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Spot on. They sure do. Do. So, I think I call them little warning signs. Pay attention to the little warning signs.
Yeah.
So
Oh, I
And
like that. Oh, I'm going to turn that into an Instagram post. Obviously, I want to put, thank you, Vesna, for the inspiration. What did you say? Pay attention to the warning signs.
the warning signs. And
Oh, I love that. Because you know what that means? Oh, sorry.
go on, go on.
Pay attention to the warning signs. That is just beautiful, a beautiful sentence. Because, for example, if you start, you have some symptoms and you ignore them, and I'm going to get probably a bit morbid here, but it could be cancer. But you ignore the symptoms and they get bigger and it grows and you got a bigger problem. But if you pay attention to those small warning signs, so let's call cancer the failing of a business. If you watch, if you check, if you look after your body, look after your business, you see those warning signs, so you can actually try to prevent something from happening down the track. So that those are little things, aren't they? The warning signs are little things that can turn into a big problem. That's going to be stuck into my head now. I love it. Sorry. I love being inspired by things that people say, and that is something I'm going to take away from today, because if people can just, it's little bits, if you can just pay attention to those little bits, even if it's your numbers start looking wrong, don't ignore the bank account, because that's when you're going to have a problem. Look at your numbers, look at your attitude, or look at all those things.
Exactly.
Okay, sorry, you inspire me too much. I'm going to interrupt you the whole way through.
You're too kind, Cassandra. Thank you. So I'll give a little example of a warning sign, just so people understand. When I was still at the bank, about 9 years into it, I woke up one morning and I just did not want to go to work. And that was so out of character for me because I have such a strong work ethic. And I thought, what is going on? That is so unlike me. And that was my little warning sign. Because for me to not get out of bed or want to get out of bed is just like completely the opposite of my character. So I started to do self-development to find out, well, what's really going on? Why am I feeling this way? Why isn't everything going the way it normally goes? And so that was a little warning sign that I paid attention to right away. It just happened once. But if a little warning sign happened once, definitely pay attention to it before it happens too often, because you're right, they do get bigger and bigger the more you ignore them.
Yes. Yeah. And the thing is, if you do ignore them, I see that as a sign of you actually trying to sabotage what you're doing, because you know what everyone, we are smart people. People know what they're doing. But it's taking that time, even if it's 5-10 minutes. I try to do this every day and just reflect on things, not necessarily what can I change or this, but just things that, okay, I need to go back, and I make a to-do list of things I need to go back on and maybe change or fix, and not ignore them, because not that I'm paranoid, but I know that these things, if you ignore them, they just get worse. It's like getting a fine in the mail and not paying it and just go, I'll deal with that later. It just keeps going up in price. You don't want those problems.
Exactly.
So it's you're much smarter if you go, okay, I'm going to be brave and I'm going to go look at this, address it, and we're going to move forward, because that's a sign that you really do want to build a successful business. So if you're not doing that, I think sometimes people need to question what they're doing and their intentions and what they're trying to achieve if they're ignoring things. I know it's scary, but yeah.
And the thing with scare is interesting, actually, because what I've found is that when people in business focus on fear, they get more scared because that's what they're focusing on. When they focus on taking action and they immerse themselves in the right action and enough of it, there's no room for fear.
Absolutely. And it's that motivation, isn't it? The motivation has to be high. I mean, you need to be reminded why you're doing this. If your motivation is high, you're going to get those things done. You don't want to ignore those things. So a good reminder is, why are you actually doing this? Why is Dr. Vesna doing what she's doing? What's that motivation? And you want to, and the thing is, there's a tip. There's something that I do. I write down what I need to get done, but I try to do it this works for me, in a robotic sort of way, not to overthink it. So I write all these things down that are going to be quite big tasks, but for me to move the day forward, for me to move my business forward, I've got a short amount of time in the day and I need to get the priorities, the most important things done. But I'll just write it down. I'll get my computer and I'll just tick them off. And I don't think about what the actual task is. It's just that it has to be done because I want to support women in business. And if I don't get that task done as hard as it is, I can't do what my purpose is, which is to support women. So I have to get it done. But I just don't, if I overthink it, that's when you can go, oh no, and all this and all those things. I've learned to be like, no, my why is so big that those things just don't bother me anymore because I need to help these people. I need to do my job. So it's removing you out of the picture a little bit sometimes and go, I've got a bigger purpose than myself, to do what I'm doing.
And purpose is the key, because purpose will drive you. The days when you wake up and you're a little bit tired or you had a challenging day, purpose will push you through all of that.
Absolutely. Look at us now. It's what time is it over there? It's nearly 9 o'clock.
Yes.
Where you are, and it's early morning for me. I mean, we're not doing this because we're getting, paid for it right now. The only motivation is that we love what we do and want to share it with other people.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it didn't take much for us to get on. We set it up quite easily, and it's amazing how smooth sailing things can be when everything's sort of aligned, when you know what you're doing, the motivation's there, you're in the right position, all those sorts of things are aligned. Things seem to flow a lot easier.
Definitely.
You're inspiring me again, Vesna. I'm taking over. So
that's all right, Cassandra. That's okay. All good. So I was going to move on to the third one, if you
yes,
would like.
Absolutely.
Confidence versus competence. This is something that people confuse quite a bit. They confuse confidence, which is a positive emotion, and confidence reflects your level of self-belief and self-worth. And the greater your belief in yourself and your worth, the greater your confidence and the greater your success as well, because there's a strong relationship between those two. Meanwhile, competence reflects your level of skill and your ability. So I use this analogy. I use my example. I taught myself to swim when I was in my mid-20s, and my best swimming stroke is a dog paddle. You know what a dog paddle is, Cassandra?
Yes, my mum was a swimming teacher, so absolutely.
Yes.
So I was swimming by 6 months old, but
wow.
Well, but the thing is, if you haven't swum before and you're doing dog paddle, that is a big step forward.
Yeah, so for me, I'm quite upfront about it. I know that my skill level is, dog level competence. And so if I was to have this enormous confidence to say, wow, I could be in the next Olympic team representing Australia in 4 years' time, or whenever the next Olympics is, yes. I think that would be a bit unrealistic, because even if I trained 24/7, I need to have more skill and more competence to be able to have the speed that I need and the level of skill I need. So, confidence is one thing. It needs to be backed up by competence as well.
Yeah, I think that's something we're not taught when we're younger, because, you can be anything you want, and you're sort of filled with these goals and dreams. And I mean, anything is possible, but you're not sort of, I think no one to say, well, depending on your skill level or sometimes what you're naturally good at, and anyone can work really hard at something, but it's almost like a reality check, isn't it? So maybe Vesna won't be doing that because of certain factors. And it's not being negative, it's being realistic.
Exactly. I think people need to be realistic for their level of skill. And anything is possible, I agree. You just need to have enough time and enough skill to achieve it as well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's very true. That's very true. And I think we can all get a bit caught up in that, because it's easy to sort of say, oh, actually I could go to the Olympics in 4 years and actually fill your head with all these possibilities, only to be a little bit disappointed at the end of it.
That's right. So I think we just need to keep in mind, do we have enough confidence and competence to get the success we want? Do we need to learn some skills, like, how to be more effective at marketing, how to be more effective at systems, how to be more effective at strategy, etc. Because, we all know people who have a whole bunch of confidence but don't back it up and don't deliver on what they say.
Yeah, that's true.
And we also know a lot of people who are really good at what they do in business, but they lack the confidence to promote themselves.
Yeah, that's a very common one, that one. Very, very common. Yeah, so you want to match, you want to bring the two together.
Exactly. Because sooner or later, people will find out that there's gaps in either
Mm,
confidence or competence. So you want to be able to have both consistently, and be realistic about it, and honestly look at what are the skills gaps that I need in order to get to where I want to get to in business.
yeah,
And this is just self feedback. It's just self growth. It's not a criticism. It's not a failure. It's nothing other than how do I get to the next level? What do I need to do
exactly.
to get to the next level?
Yeah. And I think it reflects if you really are serious about building a business, not the idea of it, but really do want to build something special, then you need to work on these things, and you need to have reality checks. So you need to be honest, and you want to know these things. I think if you want to build that business, you want to know what you're good at and what you need to maybe outsource. Because
I
otherwise you're sort of just fiddling around and wasting time. But if you sit down and go, okay, yeah, what do I need to do? What do I need to work on, because I really want to achieve this. And that is, I think that's a good mindset, to have. And I know it's not always easy for people, but it's just, yeah, just ask yourself the question.
Absolutely. I think this time of year, as we're heading towards the end of the year, is a really
Mm,
good opportunity to do that, to do
yes.
some honest self-reflection, and really think about things like, what did I do really well this year? What are areas of improvement? What are some
Mm,
things that I need to stop doing? What are some things I need to start doing? What are things
yes.
that I need to delegate or outsource? What are things that I can set up partnerships around? How can I leverage? How can I grow? What do I need to eliminate, add, etc.?
Absolutely. And that is the key to growth. I think every year, and you would have found this in your business as well, as every year you do look back and you go, okay, well, this worked and this worked and this had more impact. Okay, so I'm going to adjust my recipe, and the following year or the following month, I'm going to especially as a business grows, you find there's just so much more that you have to do, and you have to become more smarter and work out what are the bits that actually grew your business. So I know for WBS, it was events. So I'm just going to do more of that. As much as you might want to do something else, you can see
Mhm.
that the impact really was this particular part. So you remove all the other bits, and you just concentrate on what's working. You do that year after year, and it's amazing the snowball effect, um,
Yeah,
of
I,
just
I
tweaking
love
things.
yeah, I love your analogy of a recipe, Cassandra,
I
because
always
it's
do it. A marriage and a recipe. You hear that in every podcast because yeah.
and I think people can relate to a recipe because everyone's cooked something from a recipe,
Yes.
and you know that if you leave key bits of ingredients out of a recipe, it changes the taste and the look completely.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. A bit too much of this, or a bit, I mean, I've made great cakes, and then other times I haven't been concentrating. The cakes looked a bit uncake like. So
Mine too.
I, and that's why with a marriage, I think about it, because days where, that you're in a good mood, you have a great day, and then days where you're not, you might fight with your partner. I mean, I think, and I like making reference to real life things, because, the imagination, if you get so that's sort of ticking in business, and think about having, I think we have sort of an out of body experience with business. We sort of tell ourselves these one liners and think they sort of fix things. But thinking about in a way of, hold a minute, am I a good baker? Do I take the time when I make that cake? When I'm putting those ingredients in, what happens? I mean, it's just the analogy, I think, fits so well with business. Don't leave it in the oven too long because you'll burn it. Uh,
That's right. That's right. And I think, a lot of people in business are really good at their art, really good at the technical aspect of the product or service they deliver.
yes,
And so they invest quite a bit of time in that. And they also need to keep in mind they need to invest time in also the business skills as well, because without that, there's no business.
absolutely. 100%. 100%. All right.
Yeah.
So let's go off to number 4.
Number 4 is all about the great potential that lies within each one of us. And we know from all the research that's out there that human beings have unrealized potential. All of us have that. We see, for example, in the Guinness World Book of Records, more and more people achieving some amazing feats. Things that we didn't think were possible are now possible because people have done them. So we have this huge potential inside of us, except most people don't tend to push themselves to tap into that potential beyond that comfort zone. They stay in their comfort zone, and they feel like their comfort zone is the known. They know it, and it's scary to step outside of it. And so, we're capable of achieving so much more. People tell us that, you read about it, you hear about it. There's a lot of self-development that tells us that you can do
Yeah.
anything. The key thing, though, is how do you tap into those infinite resources you have inside of you? Because we all have them. We all have them. Whoever works with a client in whatever capacity, and you help them in some shape or form, you're actually helping them to tap into more of those resources, whether it be helping them with their social media, or helping them with coaching, or helping them with their health, or helping them with their strategy. Anytime we're helping somebody go beyond the usual ways of thinking, we're helping them to step into more of those infinite resources. So we are actually empowerers as business owners. So if we look at ourselves from that point of view, it's actually quite empowering for us to think of ourselves as empowering other people in lots of different ways. So, and faking it assumes that we don't have these resources. We have to pretend that we have these resources. So it's quite the opposite. And so the key question for me is not whether we have the resources or not. It's more about how are you accessing those resources? Are you doing it in effective ways or ineffective ways? And to me, the only difference between a successful person and one that's less successful is how they tap into those resources inside of themselves. Do they limit themselves, or do they step outside of their comfort zone? Do they like to stay safe, or do they like to grow? That's the only difference.
Lots of things to think about there. Lots of things to think about. Yeah, I hope everyone has got something from this talk. I think it's very much something for you to sort of sit back and ask yourself those questions that you've just said then, and think about, do I really need to fake it to make it? Do I need to? You don't need to do that, do you? You don't need to be filling yourself with things that are not true. You don't need to be relying on so the outside world. It's something from within, that it's within there. It's just tapping into all of that and spending time doing that, rather than filling yourself with just a fake it till you make it analogy.
That's exactly right. And it does take time to fake it. It takes energy to fake it. So why not divert that time and energy into actually being the success you want to be?
Yeah. I'm glad I really spoke today, because I've heard that so many times, that word, people saying that to each other. And I've always just thought, what does that even mean? What does fake it till you make it? I don't want to fake anything. You can only be a fake for so long. So there's a time when that you're going to have to address. I never understood why people would say that to each other, because I don't want to be a fake. I don't want to, I don't want to feel like I'm, you don't want to feel, so I never understood that. And I wanted to one day have a conversation with someone to unravel why it is almost like a Chinese whisper, just keeps getting repeated. And I think it's time that as business owners, we don't need to say that to ourselves. We don't need to put on that sort of armor. The armor doesn't need to include the word fake.
Yes, I agree. It's quite a disempowering word, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. I've never understood it. But we need to put on a different sort of armor when we're feeling that fear. So thank you very much for sharing all that wisdom with us.
Pleasure, Cassandra. Pleasure.
Yeah.
Happy to answer any questions anyone has via WBS, of course.
Yes. So please share, what's your website? And we're going to include all these links. But if anyone wanted to work with you and take some of these particular things any further, how can people work with you, and what do you offer, and what's your website? And I'll include all these things, but just to make a mention of it.
Sure. So the website is www.qttransformation.com. And So the first thing that people are welcome to do is download some free resources, and that will be a good way for them to get started on boosting their confidence and success. The free resources include a free chapter of my book, Stop Sabotaging Your Confidence, amongst other things. And it's just a good way for them to do a little bit of self-help exercises, a bit of self-reflection, and then, whenever they're ready, if they want further help, they're welcome to contact me. And of course, I'm happy to help. That's what I do. Love doing.
Yes, lovely, lovely. Now, I have a question for you, actually. Do you, because I really want to get a copy of your book, so do you post them overseas?
Yes, definitely. I can
Okay,
organize
fantastic.
that. Yes.
Fantastic, because I have a nice little library of WBS members who have written a book, and I'm like, I need Dr. Vesna's book on my shelf, so I need to organize that with you. Lovely, lovely. One more question: what do you love most about being, you're a business owner, doing what you do? What do you love most about it?
So being a business owner, I love being able to, I guess, own my time, space, energy, do things when I choose, have the freedom I like. So it
Yeah,
gives me the freedom, flexibility, and allows me to also help people in the way that I want to help them, to really make a difference, and do it in a way that's aligned with my values and beliefs rather than somebody else's.
yeah, absolutely. Love it. And another one, obstacles. So in business, when have you come up against an obstacle and how did you overcome the obstacle?
Oh gosh, I could name so many, but would for too long. Yes, obstacles. So obstacles, for me, this is my little saying. An obstacle is the universe testing my commitment to my goals. That's all it is.
Yes.
And it's testing me to see, okay, will I give up or will I find a way around it?
Yes.
Over it or above it or some other way. And I think it's important to have what I call resilience, which to me means the ability to bounce back from a challenge and do it quickly and effectively rather than get stuck in it.
Mm.
Because challenges, any time we set a goal, we'll face a challenge. That's just part of the journey. Anytime we step out of a comfort zone, there'll be a challenge to test our commitment to stepping out of it.
Yeah.
It's just part of life, part of business. And I think we need to get used to dealing with the little hiccups, paying attention to warning signs, and being flexible and agile. And that's the beauty of having a business where you can, I guess, spin the way you do things, like quickly turn and change and be agile, and adapt quickly rather than need to go through red tape and bureaucracy to do it.
Yeah. You realize you love doing what you do when you stay up to 2 o'clock in the morning because your site's crashed and you need it fixed and you were screaming at everybody and it was like, but it's not possible. No, it's possible. We need to fix this. And they're my proudest moments over business is looking at obstacles going, oh my goodness, they're reminders of how much as a business owner you love what you do, because for some people they might go, oh no, this is too hard, I'm going to give up now. And there's others that go, oh no, this is not happening. And you would do every possible thing to make it happen. And I love obstacles. They are beautiful things, and they are reminders of your commitment, and they're definitely reminders of how much you're willing to fight, because you do have to fight. You are the owner, you are the decision maker, and you are faced with big decisions. And you feel it even when designing your logo. No one can say, oh, there's your logo, like you would in the corporate world. Here you go, put this up, that's done. You are making all those decisions. So there's going to be obstacles, and it's amazing what you do to fight for something you love.
Yeah, I equate it to mother and child. It's like your business is your baby, and you will do whatever it takes to protect the baby. So
Absolutely.
it's the same thing. You give it birth, and you nurture it, and you see it grow, and you want to be there to protect it and encourage it, and make it blossom and grow, and that's part of the joy, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. And then when it grows up and it turns into a an adult or a business that sort of runs itself. It sort of moves along, and you're not having to spoon feed it every step of the way. That's the moment that I think a lot of businesses are sort of waiting for.
Yes, like parents waiting for kids to leave home, huh?
Yeah, exactly. No, I don't want my babies to leave home. I'm like, if you go to another country and go to university, I'm coming with you. Even though I'll probably still be at university when my kids are in university. But anyway, that's another topic. Well, you know what, Dr. Vesna, it's been amazing speaking to you. I think this definitely could be a 3-hour podcast if we let it be. But we're going to stop it there. And I hope you guys have all enjoyed our chat, and hopefully we can get you back on and talk about something else, because I think there is more that you could share with us.
Oh, thank you so much, Cassandra. Totally enjoyed it. Love to come back.
So that's it for this episode of the WBS podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. You can find all our episodes on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, or by searching for Women's Business Society on any podcast player. If you're a female entrepreneur, head on over to WBSociety.com to find out how you can become a member. Whilst you're there, check out the WBS magazine, which is full of tips to help grow your business. The Women's Business Society promotes, connects and motivates female entrepreneurs. We look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.